in the morning, it's 8 a.m. It's so fun to go to school again. I miss my school, I miss you all.
Hello lovely students, welcome to the class. Today we are going to be discussing office documents. Office documents. We're looking at the meaning first of all before we see the types. And then because there are various types, we will not be able to exhaust all. We'll only focus on some of the sales and purchases documents. Now first of all, what do we mean by office documents? These are simply the various documents that are kept in an organization or by an organization for keeping record of different items. So they are documents that are kept to show record of such items as sales and purchases of the organization or company. And then some of them also serve as evidence of financial payments and other transactions. And let's look at this one after the other for a better understanding. The types of office documents, the sales document, and the purchases document. The sales documents are documents used in keeping records of all sales transactions. They are used during and immediately after sales of goods and rendering of services are completed in an organization. The sales documents are many, but we shall be looking at a few of these. We have the invoice, we have the receipt, the credit note, the debit note, the delivery note, and other ones. Let's start with the first, which is the invoice. The invoice is a business document used by the seller to indicate the value of goods sold or services rendered to a buyer. That means after buying some amount of goods, the buyer is able to see the quantity of goods, the amount paid per unit, and the total amount through the invoice that is issued by a seller. The invoice looks like what you can see on display, and then at the end, both the buyer and the seller are meant to sign to confirm the goods. Let's now look at the receipt. It is a document that serves as a proof or evidence of payment for goods bought. It shows the sum of money that is paid for goods that have been purchased. Whenever a seller sells some goods, he's supposed to issue the receipt to show that payment have been completed by the buyer. A receipt could also look like what you can see on display. Some of them are handwritten. Whatever it is, it shows the amount paid by the buyer. The third one we're looking at is a credit note. It is prepared by the seller for goods that are returned. This is issued in the incidence of what we call overcharge. That is, when the buyer is charged wrongly for goods that were not supplied or charged more than he was supposed to pay, the credit note is issued to him. Now let's look at the debit note. This is just a direct opposite of the credit note. In the incidence of undercharge, that is, when a buyer is wrongly undercharged, a debit note is issued to him or her. This document is issued by the seller to show that the buyer is supposed to pay more or return some of the goods which he or she did not pay for. That is the debit note. So we can say that the debit note is a direct opposite of the credit note. Now let's proceed to the delivery note. The delivery note is a document used when goods sold are being delivered to the buyer. So the buyer uses the delivery note to know that these are the goods supplied by the seller. So before whoever is delivering the goods goes, the buyer is supposed to check the delivery note sent by the seller and sign it. It shows the seller that what? The goods have been delivered and received by the buyer. Now the statement of account is another important sales document which is sent periodically to remind a debtor of the debt that he or she owes. So through the statement of account, the buyer or whoever is a debtor to a company or an organization is supposed to know that this is the amount that he or she is owing the company, so that he will remember to clear such debts. The second type is the purchases document. These are simply the documents used in keeping record of purchases in an organization or a company. They are mainly used before purchases are made. They are used to prove that these are the items that are to be bought or to be sold by an organization to some customers. Examples of these are price list, the purchase order, quotation, letter of inquiry. All these are examples of purchases document. Let's start with the price list. It is a list containing all the goods available for sale and their prices. That means, for instance, you want to buy some items from UPSS. The price list will show you the available items or materials and their respective prices. For example, you want to buy a t-shirt, a pair of shoes. The items and the amount are stated using the price list. The purchase order. This is a document used to give instruction to a supplier or a seller to supply the stated items. And let me use that instance again, assuming you want to purchase some items from UPSS bookstore. Those books, you've already seen their prices through the price list. You can send a purchase order to UPSS in order to order the ones that you want to purchase. Now let's talk about the quotation. It is a document sent by a seller in reply to an inquiry by a buyer. So the buyer is able to receive a reply from the seller concerning his inquiry through the what? The quotation. It specifies the goods available in stock. So the buyer will be able to know what the sellers are having in stock to sell. The letter of inquiry. A letter of inquiry is sent by a buyer to a seller to find out if certain goods are in stock or available for sale in an organization. He uses these documents. Till we meet again in class. Bye.